Alright guys, I just want to provide my point of view about the current conditions of the 2024 presidential election and do my official probably final presidential election prediction map. And now let's get started with filling in the solid states for Kamala Harris. We have Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Delaware, Rhode Island, Maryland, and DC. Now, also we do have Colorado, which I think is going to actually fill, and generally we have a lean margin for Colorado this entire cycle. Was that for Joe Biden, or was that for actually Kamala Harris as well? It's about the same margins for both of these candidates. Now, I think that also New Mexico, of course, is going to fall under 12 points. And now let's get started with filling in the Republican solid states. We can start with Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska 3rd District, Nebraska 1st District, and Nebraska whole. Also Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, and South Carolina as well. And that's going to be all the solid states for Donald Trump. We start with 180 to 122, and Harris is leading in this case. Now let's have a look at the lean states. We have Colorado definitely going to fall in lead. Of course, Oregon is also closer than let's say Washington, the neighboring state. I think that it's going to fall under, could fall under 15 points. We don't know that, but it's definitely not going to go below the 12-point threshold that we use in defining solid states. Therefore, I think it's going to be a solid state on our map. Now we also have New Mexico, which is going to be which is not going to be a lean category right now, because I just don't see that happening. So same for Minnesota as well. I don't see that it would fall, it would go above that 7 points. So I really just don't see. So it's gonna have to fall into the likely margin category. And we do have lean category, and we do have also Colorado was supposed to be lean, but yeah, anyways, we also have Iowa for Republicans. That's supposed to fall into the likely category, but we don't know if that's going to manifest just yet. Virginia is most likely going to be a likely state. Also, for the Democrats, could actually dip below that 7 points. It's completely possible right now. I could actually really see that happening but I think that $3 million of ad spend that's been pulled into Virginia by basically giving up in North Carolina, or maybe there was some optimistic polling for Kamala Harris's side. But right now, I just don't see that Virginia, it falls under 7%. Well, I do see it, but I would say it's 50-50. So we can just have it as a likely state. And we also have Republicans now also have the same margin victories in Texas. In Florida, Texas is not going to get flipped just yet, but I do see a lot of influx of people from California to Texas, generally turning it more liberal, but I don't see that manifesting yet. And we also have swing states now left. Also, we have to say that Iowa is probably going to be a lean, possibly likely margin. I definitely see likely margin for Iowa. And also, Trump just held a campaign in New Mexico. I think that makes it fall under that margin that we were talking about, but I just don't think New Mexico is going to get flipped with. It has, half of New Mexico's population is actually Hispanic. Also, as we know, New Mexico doesn't have a lot of rural areas, though what it has to do generally vote for the Republican candidate, like let's say in Michigan. But yes, New Mexico has Albuquerque, also a few other cities, basically making up its entire population of 1 million. Now, also Minnesota, we had the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, Tim Walz, been chosen as the governor of Minnesota. That's definitely going to help Kamala Harris in Minnesota. Although she was really struggling there. It was really close last two presidential election cycles, really close, and we know that Minnesota hasn't turned red in dozens of years, and this would be a major flip in the Rust Belt states overall. And also you have, now we only have Maine left. I have to say that the Maine at large is going to just go to Democrats by a really slight margin. Of course, the second state is going to go to the Republicans, and the Nebraska 2nd District with Omaha is definitely going to go to Kamala Harris. I don't see Republicans gaining any major ground in such an urban, really densely populated area. Now also we have Ohio for Trump. He's going to win it by a likely margin, possibly a lean margin, but I just don't see that happening. I would see it happening in Iowa, but Ohio is solid right now from the current standpoint. Now we only have, basically we have swing states, but I have to say that New Hampshire is not much of one. I definitely see it dipping below the likely margin category, and definitely could even going down, and that's very much not probable. I have to say that, but that's what Donald Trump campaign is trying to flip New Hampshire. It's a small state with just 4 electoral votes. Why does it actually have any effect? Let me tell you. So if you have a look at the blue wall that's been talked about a lot for Kamala Harris campaign, that would be massive. That victory of securing this blue wall, they could just ignore all the other swing states. We're even talking about Nevada. Nevada turns out is actually going to probably vote Republican, and if Nevada actually votes red, then Kamala Harris really has to secure this blue wall. Now, what are the probabilities here? I have to say that Michigan is definitely most liberal of the three. It's more likely to go to Kamala Harris in this case. I definitely see that happening. Detroit and other rural areas about here where I'm pointing at, and the rest of Michigan is extremely, not extremely, but we could just say red. And yeah, it's basically a red state except this little metropolitan area around Detroit. Now I definitely see, Detroit is 93% or something Democrat, and that's substantial. That's some record numbers, even for cities. So yeah, I think that Michigan is more leaning for Kamala Harris right now. Of course, not going to go about this margin. Also, I definitely see Wisconsin going to Kamala Harris, because generally Wisconsin tends to vote the same as Michigan, but well, that's not the correlation that I like to go from. The line that I'm following right now is Wisconsin is definitely also really liberal. As you guys know, a lot of universities in Wisconsin, a lot of metropolitan areas, not just Milwaukee, but also other cities, smaller cities as well, are voting Democrat. So I definitely see Wisconsin voting for Kamala Harris. And now finally we have the final state that's left is probably Pennsylvania. Really important state right now. Which way is it gonna go? I definitely see Pennsylvania. Sorry about that. I definitely see Pennsylvania going either way. Really a toss-up, like the definition of a toss-up, because yes, the betting markets have Pennsylvania at 60% for Trump, and generally Trump is at 64% last time I checked, and I think that's exaggerated from polling markets, specifically polling market, because if you have a look at the recently launched betting, the election betting market from Robinhood, the stock market, platform Robinhood, they have Trump basically trailing 3 points below the polling market predictions, about 3 points below that, which is substantial. Extremely important to remember that this is a really major margin. 3% is quite a lot, actually, 3 to 4%. And right now, based on Robinhood, I think it was like 60 to 61% chance of victory for Donald Trump. Well, I don't agree with that, because now if you have a look at, let's say Kamala Harris is not able to secure Pennsylvania and actually Trump gets it, right? Let's say. Then what happens then? We have Nevada, that's like the best chance for Kamala. Let's say she takes Nevada. Now she also has to take Georgia or North Carolina. I mean Arizona is not going to do anything at all. But if you have a look at Arizona, I think that it's also really important. And let's say she secures Arizona, then she has to take also, she probably, I'm not really sure what else she could do here except just go for Georgia and North Carolina. And Georgia is under active campaigning from Kamala. I definitely see it going in her way, but not, I would have to say about 30% chance of that happening, maybe even lower. That's what I would attribute it. Of course, polling market says way higher chances than that. I think it was like 24% chance that she actually gets Georgia or North Carolina. They're pretty similar in terms of betting odds. So I think that she has a chance in North Carolina, less of a chance in Georgia, and even less in Arizona. But nevertheless, if she can get either of these three, she wins except Arizona, of course, but she has to get Nevada. So she really is obligated to get Pennsylvania to actually win the election. She was leading in Nevada, and also initially leading in North Carolina, and then that just changed to the trend for Trump, really stable trend. But it was basically a toss-up in North Carolina, and also Nevada was, a toss-up actually, prior to that was in favor of Kamala, but I think that's going to change right now, and I think, yes, right now Republicans are actually leading in Nevada. Therefore, this could be one of the scenarios, one of the winning scenarios for Kamala. Also, generally, yes, I definitely think that New Hampshire could go red if they really do aggressive campaigning, pull out money from a certain state and just pour it into New Hampshire, and maybe flip it red. But yes, I don't. So this is my official prediction. We can just attribute. We can just give her Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is basically a toss-up, but then also the implied odds of, let's say, her winning either of these states, that's Georgia, North Carolina, and then Nevada and Arizona. But just Georgia and Nevada also could do, and Georgia and North Carolina and Nevada could also do. If she is able to win either of these, combinations, she also wins. So I have to give her Pennsylvania, because I don't think it's realistic to say that, somehow, let's say, New Hampshire, Virginia, Minnesota, or New Mexico are going to flip in favor of the Republicans.